So trust, faith, and belief are they the same?
Oh girl, it must be you again. You have gone straight to my head. Take the pills and go to bed, but I'm still hooked on it. Well, you are sacred in a way. I don't know God, but still have faith that He will manifest some way when I am next to you.
Hello, my friend, and welcome to the Gospel Hour with David. Glory be to God. Jesus Christ is alive. He lives. And I believe by the power of His good Spirit, He has gathered us together today. I think as every believer, and maybe not everybody's going to understand what I'm going to say today, but I think as every believer, there comes a place in life where we're going to ask the question, what is faith? What is trust? And what is belief? And, you know, trust in what? Believe in what? Have faith in what? And I believe when I see the Bible and all the experiences everybody had with God, God presented Himself in such a way that the people had no other choice but to believe, to trust in, and to faith in. Because I suppose God left them no other option. No other options. So it is God who is faithful. Alright, so God, I don't know if He questions our faith, and maybe He does question our faith, but I believe God is faithful. Faithful to His oaths. Faithful to His promises. Faithful to His word. So trust or faith is very powerful. Jesus says there's nothing more powerful on earth than faith, right? There was a time He's walking through Jerusalem and He's hungry, right? He doesn't go to the grocery store, but He goes to this fig tree. There's this fig tree, and it's supposed to be producing figs, and there's absolutely no figs on it, even though it was in full bloom. And so He grabs hold of the fig tree and says, "May you never bear fruit again." And within minutes, the tree just withers and it dies. And all the disciples, the students, are completely amazed. How did you do that? By what power, by what teaching does this come from? And Jesus says, well, if you had faith as small as a mustard seed, which faith in its purest sense, purity, wrapped around its purest sense, you could say to a mulberry bush, uproot yourself and plant yourself into the sea, and that bush would obey you. Said if you just had the smallest amount of pure faith, it's so strong, it's so powerful, you could walk up to a mountain and say, uproot yourself, move out of my way, plant yourself into the sea, and that mountain would obey you. And in the Bible, there's nothing God says is more pleasing to him than our faith. Our faith. Sometimes I struggle to believe God is unconditional love. Not love with limits. Right? A limit is a boundary. I'll love you so far as the boundary will allow me to love you. But unconditional love has no boundary. And sometimes we struggle to believe God's love is unconditional. But creation defies that logic because everybody's allowed. The wicked are allowed to be. Evil is allowed to be. The righteous is allowed to be. The holy, they're allowed. So, it's like this. God says, I make a place of rest. Right? Some people say that's the Garden of Eden. But God has created a place of rest for us, a place where peace and harmony coexist. So faith is rest. Rest in me. Jesus says, believe in me. Believe also in God, the one who sent me. Because I didn't come into the world to condemn it, but I came to save it. And I came to save it by giving you eternal life. Rest in me. Trust in me. Believe in me. Not the accuser, not those who come to condemn. But yes, God has condemned, but it's for that reason. Christ came into the world to save that which was lost. So God says, right? Jesus says, I came to gather you under my wings. As a hen gathers over her chicks. But they refused to come. You know, God's hand, and this is how it is. This is faith. God gives you his hand. And then says, climb into my arms. I'll give you rest. I'll give you peace. Faith says, okay. Okay. Trust says, here I am. Belief says, I am safe now. And evidence being true, that contrite heart. A heart that is content with what it has. Faith says, okay. Trust says, here I am. And belief says, I am safe now. Faith is a belief in something unseen. There's absolutely no evidence that the unseen God is being seen in our world, yet we still believe in the unseen God. Faith says there is a thing that does exist, and that thing that does exist is unconditional love. And I've seen no evidence of unconditional love being a reality, but I still believe it. I still believe it. God is the manifestation of that reality. Here's my hand. Climb aboard, and I'll hold you in my bosom. And there you'll find rest. I believe it because I'm safe. I trusted in it because you made it available. I said okay because I seen it. Flesh is always fighting and warring with the spirit. Can I trust myself in your hand? And if you can, that there's peace, there's happiness, there's harmony. And then God says, this is the reality of my living word. The house that is built upon the rock will withstand the storm. And the rock is he who hears my word and then obeys it. Here's my hand. Climb in. So it's all one. It's all one thing. First sign of salvation alive in your life is laughter. Laughter. Isaac. The promise was in Isaac, with Isaac, Abraham's son. And the promise was that Abraham was going to have a child with Sarah. Now Sarah is 90 years old, an old woman, and had been barren all of her life, unable to have children. And then the Lord appears, says within a year you're going to have a son. When Sarah heard it, she snickered, she laughed, like, are you serious? And the Lord said, why did you laugh? Is there anything impossible for the Lord? You will have a son within the year. And you're going to name that son Isaac. Because you laughed. For there is nothing impossible for the Lord. Nothing. Where does salvation come from? Love. So, absent of love, what could I put my faith in? Absent of love, what could I put my faith in? Because it is love. It is love that God says, put your faith there, inside of love, and you'll be rewarded. So, what does that look like? One day, Abraham receives a message that the Lord has asked for a sacrifice, and that he should take his son up to the top of this mountain and sacrifice him there. Not just any son, but Isaac. His joy, his laughter, the promise of God. The impossible becoming possible. Take that to the altar and sacrifice that. But Abraham said, as he was speaking to Isaac, as Isaac says, "Where's the goat? Where's the ram?" Abraham never really said, "You're it. You're it." He didn't say that. You know what he said? "Don't worry, my son. Don't be afraid. God will provide. He will provide." And so they went up there. And they laid out all the sticks and all the stuff to create the burnt offering on the altar. Even tying up Isaac, grabbing the knife, and ready to slay him. God will provide. And he did. He provided a lamb. He provided a word. Stop what you're doing. I believe. I believe you believe in God, Abraham. He will provide. Believe in the love of God. That no matter how far down this path we're gonna go, we will survive because we have built our house upon the rock. Faith, evidence of the unseen. Trust, evidence that the unseen has made itself known. And belief is God's faithfulness. God's faithfulness. I said, I love you. That's the one thing everybody in the world covers over. That's the one thing everybody in the world protects over. Sometimes we think the most vulnerable place upon our bodies, it may be our genital area. But actually, the most vulnerable place within our body is right here, within my heart. And there's only one thing gonna break that heart, to cut it or wound it. That's not being able to trust in you. I suppose that's what the devil does each and every day. Tries to take us out of the hand of God. Tries to take us away from being able to trust in the only thing that's trustworthy. Love. And love is not a word. Love is an action. And faith is the response to that action. I have rest. Because God said, I give you rest. I have love. Because God made love available to me. And I believe it. Because it's the truth. Right? It's the truth. What makes it the truth? I am safe now. That's the magnificence of God's glory in our lives. Training, teaching, children, men and women, godliness, holiness, and righteousness. Because in those things, we can grab hold of what we want most. A provider, a protector, and a place of rest. And only Jesus Christ can give that to us. And Christ is fully alive within us. There's nothing gonna stop two strangers from coming together when it's alive within us, the two. Nothing would stop those two strangers from coming together and becoming one. One person, not just one in flesh, but one in spirit, one in mind, one in one. Faith, trust, and belief. And the three testify that God is love.
Oh girl, it must be you again. You have gone straight to my head. Take the pills and go to bed, but I'm still hooked on it. But you are sacred in a way. I don't know God, but still have faith that He will manifest some way when I am next to you. Asked your father for your hand, but it didn't matter what he said. The thought of you in a white dress, I don't think I can shake it. We'll get a little place upstate, stay till the kids all graduate. Talk of moving every day, but who are we kidding? We made all our memories here, felt our joys, shed our tears. And when the Holy Ghost appears, hope He sends me back a few more years.